Welcome back, everybody. It is Wins Above Fantasy, episode 186. Happy Thursday for those of you on the podcast, July 17th, fresh out of All-Star break here. And for those of you guys joining on the live stream, welcome as always. Steve, I know it's been a nice little breather. I also wrapped up a big work project, so I'm feeling good heading into the second half, and that's what we're talking about tonight. Second half breakout picks. We got some hitters and pitchers that you and I are both going to kind of profile some picks that we think are going to break out. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun, man. So a couple of these names we've talked about throughout the year, but there's some fresh names as well. So can't wait to get into it. I know we were talking offline. I had the busy work schedule, so I did not get to watch live either the Home Run Derby or the All-Star game, but pretty awesome action on both fronts, and the All-Star game, especially with the swing off and the comeback and everything. So it was a very cool moment for baseball, which it always is. And yeah, just curious if you tuned in, what your thoughts were, and excited to be back talking with you, man. How's it going?
Yeah, it's good. It's been a nice break. I also can't lie and say that I haven't sat down, grabbed my phone, and gone to the score app and looked for scores just out of habit the last few nights.
The phantom lineup check.
Yeah, exactly. But it's been nice not having to stress and worry about that for a few days, as we talked about a bit last week.
Yeah.
And it's still one more day, right? As this comes out, games don't start till Friday. I think back in the day, there used to be games on the Thursday after All-Star break, like maybe one or two, like they would have like a primetime one. But I'm all for it. I think, it's nice for the players to have a longer break. Even those guys that did play in the All-Star game, at least they get off for, 2 days here. I think that's why a few of them maybe weren't available for the swing off, right? I think some guys got out of there as they were pulled out of the game. Which is interesting and fun. But yeah, I was a fan of it. I like the head-to-head format in the Home Run Derby. I know there's some nostalgia about the old way of the 10 outs, and we talked about that last week, which there's a place in my heart for that. But I think it's cooler with the action of having matchups just from the start, in a bracket format. And the All-Star game, I mean, look, yes, it was different. But this is an exhibition game. This is where to do this stuff. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You have people on one side saying, "What is this? Newfangled swing off home run derby in a game thing?" But the game doesn't matter, right? And otherwise, we had the debacle of an extra inning game in a meaningless exhibition, right? So I think it was a nice mix. I enjoyed both the Home Run Derby and All-Star game. I did watch more of the Home Run Derby than the actual All-Star game, but I think it was cool. That being said, I want that swing off nowhere near any meaningful games.
The actual game.
Been like a sub headline or theme from that. It was cool. Leave it for the All-Star game. Yeah,
it's a Sandlot thing, honestly. But it is a little bit scary because like the Ghost Runner and stuff is also once a Sandlot.
But I think that's that's solved the extra inning issue, though, right? In a sense, right? The goal was to avoid the 17 inning games, and the Ghost Runner's done that. So,
and that's a better way to do it. Totally agree. Well, tonight's format, Steve, we got a dozen names to talk through, so we should probably jump in. But big picture thoughts on second half breakouts. I mean, I know process-wise, I like to do what we do, where we start as kind of wayfinding by looking at some of the tools where you can see kind of differences between expected stats and stats. I think it's also always important to look at any trending data. And I know there's some sample size issues. You can get burned, but if there's a guy who's made a tweak to the rotation, or it's finally like, or a tweak to the arsenal, or it's finally clicking and he's strung a few really good starts together, that was kind of my criteria. But cool exercise. And I know some of the names range from widely available to guys who could be like buy lows. So just curious your thoughts before we jump in and rattle off the names here.
Yeah, there's a lot that could happen after the All-Star break. A lot changes, right? It happens every single year that you can just look at any second half leaderboard and see, guys going berserk. Vlad Guerrero's 211 WRC plus in the second half last year versus like a 120 in the first half. Comes, Corbin Carroll basically cementing himself as a first round pick again in the second half after hitting what he had 17 homers after the All-Star break. And he had 5 going into it, right? He finished 230, 332, 749, and that was after slashing 258, 351, 567.
Wow.
For an OPS above 900 in the second half last year with a 147 WRC plus. So guys could have monster second halves. And the interesting thing is, like, sometimes there's writing on the wall, and we could look at all their advanced stats and say, oh, this is coming, like Vlad, right? Like, look at this. Look at this amazing data. He's just a tweak away. Once he gets on a streak of hitting balls slightly more in the air, it's going to pop off, and it does. I think that potentially could be the case again this year for Vlad, even though he's not on our list. Other times, like with Corbin Carroll, it's like you kind of just got to trust your gut and the track record of like this guy that could do it, right? Because with Carroll last year, how concerned were we about the shoulder? Like the StatCast data and underlying data was not great. There was nothing that screamed by other than the fact that, okay, let's trust that this is a first round talent and a guy that, has the potential to be a top 5 fantasy player in any year. You kind of have to balance that too. My list is a little bit of both. So
Lawrence Butler comes to mind too last year. That it's like he was hitting 211 before All-Star break and hit 300 the rest of the way.
Was he an obvious buy? It's like, oh, look how hard. Like, I don't maybe a little bit, but
there's no data. Right. Yeah. So I totally agree. So there is definitely a margin for error on this exercise, but it's fun to look ahead. So that's what we'll do. We'll kind of jump in here, and I can lead us off, Steve. Didn't know going into it that I would lead with a catcher, but I actually have YAINER DIAZ rostered in some formats, and he's one that is kind of interesting to me because I think we loved, the talent and what he's shown in, early in his career, a couple seasons in a row where he proved he is, a top 3 or 4 offensive catcher in the bigs, and it's been, especially with all of the catcher production around, it's been a little bit lackluster where, his rookie season, he hit 282 with an 846 OPS. Last year, he hit 299 with a 766 OPS. And then this year, the 13 homers have been good, but a 246 batting average. It's not that he hasn't been a contributor, but I think that there's some reason to be excited with DIAZ. So just looking at kind of basic outcome related month over month data, in April he hit 198, in May it was 283, in June 256, July so far at 275, and he's really tapped into the power in the last 2.5 months. And some of that I know I just had dropped in here, but his bat speed month over month, it has skyrocketed in July, and he was one that when you look at some of these expected stats, it looks like there is room for him to go up. So his X slug is at 680, while his actual slug, 480, while his actual slug is at 408. His batting average is at 246, but his XBA is at 275. So I think it's just, maybe breakout is the wrong word because YAINER DIAZ has already broken out, right? But I do think that we could be in for a big second half when you look at what is a hit tool that has been underperforming and a power pace that looks like it's going to be a watermark in his short career so far. So I think it all seems like it's clicking. He's swinging the ball hard. I know that, the Astros got some favorable matchups. I think they go to Coors in the next few series. So yeah, DIAZ is one that I just wanted to circle and say I wouldn't be shocked if we kind of talked about the catcher position at the end of the year and Diaz was right up there behind Cal Raleigh as like, and Will Smith is like a top 3, which is where you drafted him. So that's the one I wanted to start out with. Not sure if you want to add anything on that one or keep rolling with your first hitter.
It got up on the screen. Speaking of rolling, YAINER Diaz is 50 batted ball rolling hard hit percentage.
Very nice.
And it's exactly what you would hope for someone that disappointed and is seemingly getting it back together. He's basically was pretty disappointing early in the season, under 30%, which was unlike him, right? The reason why we like YAINER Diaz so much is because of how hard he hit the ball. And basically from April on, it's just been a steady climb up. Yeah, sure, there's been some ebb and flows, but it's still stayed at a good level, right? There's been some peaks above 50%, which is what you want to see for YAINER Diaz. So yeah, it looks like and there was a stint there that the production was looking like it was coming around for Diaz, but I could see a big second half coming for him. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think just looking at last year, like, he's capable of those runs where it's like hitting 300 with 6 homers in a month. So I think we could see something like that, and I would not be surprised. But Steve, why don't you lead off with your first hitter breakout for the second half?
Yeah, my first hitter breakout for the second half is someone that just came back from injury. That is Wyatt Langford. I was a big fan of him coming into the season. It's been slightly disappointing. I mean, I don't even know if you can call it that, considering he has 15 homers and 15 steals at the All-Star break. I think if you gave those numbers, considering Wyatt Langford was a top 5 round pick with potentially some helium coming into the year, that you would have been happy with that. Maybe you would hope for a little more one way or the other, considering he had a second half last year that was close to that. But he's doing everything that you want to see Wyatt Langford doing, and why he was such an intriguing prospect and someone that we thought could hit the ground running, and did at certain points. From fantasy perspective, right? He's still just 23 years old, right? And at this point, he's hitting the ball hard. He has 75 percentile hard hit percentage, 77th percentile barrel rate. The X WOBA is slightly higher than his 321 WOBA, which is maybe a little bit disappointing. The Ks have gone up a little bit, but still, I think that's something that maybe was more prevalent in his early season struggles. So yeah, I just think Langford is basically on the precipice of becoming a fantasy superstar, and is, learning the league and making those adjustments that he needs to become an elite fantasy player. I think it's just a matter of time, and this is maybe a little bit mix of gut feel and prospect track record, but there's still a lot of things he does that's impressive as a rookie or as a second year player, right? He pulls the ball hard in the air, hits the ball hard in the air. It's not too much ground balls. There's a little bit too much pop up in this game, which is interesting, and I think that's maybe leading to why like his squared up and launch angle sweet spot is a little bit less than you would hope for. That being said, that seems like it could be just like a tweak away. I think he also had a pop-up issue at certain points last year, and sort of fought through it and had that really strong finish to the season in September, where it looked like, okay, Wyatt Langford has arrived. I know it was an oblique injury, so that's a little bit scary, but it was close to a minimal stint, or it wasn't like a month-long oblique absence, right? So hopefully that doesn't linger. All-Star break to get even more healthy, and I would expect a big second half from Wyatt Langford, and I can see him as someone that like could potentially have like a Corbin Carroll type second half, where he goes like 15-15 or something like that in the 2 remaining months, and finishes with the 30-30 season with maybe a better average than the 242.
I think so. And I think that's where, like, when I look at Langford, to me, it kind of feels like this is what almost a true talent of what I expect out of PCA on we've been talking
Yeah.
about Crow Armstrong,
Yeah.
and he just won't come down to earth. But like the thing about Langford is there's clearly that volatility. Like April, he had a monster month at 1052 OPS, and then July has been looking really good as well with like a 324 average. So to your point, Steve, I think the 242 average is probably what you're upset with a lot of those offers in there. And I think he's a notch above that as a hitter, in my opinion, especially like you said, at just age 23. If you look at month over month stuff, like his line drive rate is going up, his pull rate is going up. Like to me, those are things that indicate that there's a hit tool there. But yeah,
It's also interesting in
mhm.
2024 versus the four seam fastball. He had a -5 run value. I know this is all results based, so there's a lot that goes into it. But he only had 224 and slugged 358 versus fastballs last year. The average is still a little low at 240, but he's slugging 447.
There you go.
And,
Yeah, I mean
and has an X love of 512. So there's improvement on fastballs, which is something that is encouraging from a young hitter, because that's what these pitchers do when you first come up. It's like, okay, can you here's this fastball, can you hit it? And, that's why you see sometimes like, the Will Benson or like Reese Hins or Aristides Aquino. I don't know why I just named 3 Reds there, not to pick on them, but they mash these fastballs for the first 2 weeks, and then pitchers stop throwing them because they're testing them out. But to make that, it sometimes goes the other way too, right? You have to adjust to be able to show you can hit it.
Yeah. No, I like the pick though, and he's already doing the power speed combo, so the rest could be, a mega breakout to move him from like a 5th rounder up closer to a PCA. Mine is another early rounder here, and we kind of hinted at it in past shows, but I really think Matt Olson is primed for one of those second halves. I think we were talking about him in tandem with Pete Alonso in a recent episode, just that he is the type of guy that it almost quietly, with how bad the Braves have been, his 17 homers is flying under the radar a little bit. And it's not to say that breakout implies that he's been struggling, because, hitting 262 with 17 homers is, very solid. It's kind of what you signed up for, where you grabbed Matt Olson. But when you look at just how he's doing it and the stuff under the hood, this looks a lot closer to 2023 Matt Olson in terms of the hard hit rate. The barrel rate is even higher at a 16.7 than it was in 2023. And last year it was down when he had that 29 homer season. And we all kind of looked at that and we're like, all right, we're taking the over on that. But that 2023 season that this looks so similar to, you have to remind yourself that he hit 283 with 54 homers. And if things start clicking for the Braves, would we be shocked if Olson eclipsed 40 homers? And kind of, again, breakout is a loose term for Olson because he's Matt Olson, but I think we're going to see a much better second half for him. I know Vlad is one that's always a candidate for this exercise, but won't be the least surprised based on just everything under the hood if Olson just goes berserk in the second half here. So not a ton to add beyond that, but when I was looking at kind of the full suite of players and, looking at standard versus expected, just while we're doing the exercise, his X slug right now is 536 and his standard slug is 468. So there's, even with the half he just had, he could be at, 24, 25 homers if things, rolled just a little bit differently. So that's my second one. I don't know if anything to add there, but I think Olson could have a monster second half.
His batted ball data looks exactly like 2023. It's crazy. Like maybe a little bit lower. No, it's like the same XBA. It's scary how similar it looks.
And it looked different last year, which is the encouraging thing. You know what I mean? Like there was a valley a little bit. I mean, within his standards, like it was still great, but this year it looks like he's back to that old self.
The one thing is the bat speeds declined. It went from 85th percentile at 75 miles an hour in 2023, 80th percentile at 74 miles an hour in 2024, and then 74th percentile at 73.6 this year. But I mean, the hard hit is still there. But maybe that means that he doesn't have the 50 homer upside. It's more the 40 homer upside. But I mean, if Matt Olson hits 23 homers in 2.5 months, that's going to be, one of the best fantasy players in the second half. And it's possible, right? I look at Matt Olson and I see, years where he has the 39 homers, even the 34 in 2022. He has a homer on the fly ball at 20 or above 20, right? In 2022, he had a 18% homer on the fly ball rate. The last 2 years, it's been 15.5 and 15.7, respectively. He can easily have a half with a 20% homer to fly ball, especially in the hot months of July and August, and even the beginning of September. That stays pretty warm down there in Atlanta. So I'm perpetually on the Matt Olson train and touting him as a buy low or just a good value. And not that he's been disappointing even, right? Like this is kind of what you signed up for. Maybe 3 to 4 more home runs is what you would have hoped for. But that could easily be made up for, a scorching hot run where he hits 8 in 10 days or something like that.
Right. It seems like Olson and Langford are like, you've been satisfied, but there's a chance for it to shoot way up, kind of like we talked about with Vlad last year.
They've kind of hit their like 60th to 70th percentile outcome, right? Or maybe even 50. Like they're almost at their floor for like what you've been. Okay, yeah, this is fine. But maybe there's potential for much more. I could definitely see that happening. For both of them.
Yeah. All right. You're up for round 2 on hitters here, Steve.
All right. This one is going to surprise no one. I'm doubling down with one of my chalkboard picks. Probably the player I've hitched my wagon to the most this year. That's Mike Trout.
Love it.
Mike Trout came back from injury on May 30th after he missed about a month with that knee injury. He's only played DH, and it's been 138 at bats. I don't have the game total in front of me, but what do you think his OPS is during that time? So from May 30th on.
I know he's been hot. Let's say 900.
Not too bad. 911. 8 homers,
Still,
283 average. A 24% strikeout rate, which is good for Trout these days, right? A 20% walk rate, which maybe that's making up for a little bit more of the OPS than you would hope for at just a 478 slug, right? You would hope for a little bit more there, but it's been good. It's been 41 games, so a little over a month of play. 283 average, 8 homers. That's what you were hoping for, with maybe a bit more hoping for a bit more in the power department. But it looks like that might be coming around, right? He had 3 homers the week before the All-Star break, has had 6 homers in the last 30 days. So it could be coming around for Trout. Like there's everything that was enticing about him and just hoping that he stayed healthy is still there, right? It's a 404 xWOBA, a 279 xBA, a 561 x slug. The barrel rate is elite. The hard hit rate is elite. The launch angle sweet spot is elite. The bat speed is still really good. So it's there for him. I know it's asking a bit more because you have to ask for Mike Trout to stay healthy. And it's almost scary that he's was in the news and doing outfield drills again. It's like, all right, like let's not push it. Just stay at DH for the rest of the year. Like you're getting hot. Like let's stay there. That being said, I think he can have. I feel like I've been saying this a lot, that there's players that could have 10 homers in a month. Like Trout absolutely can go nuclear and could do that, especially coming off like a week off. With this All-Star break and getting healthier, that he's healthy enough to be in the outfield. So I could see Trout having a very, very big second half.
Yeah, it's great to see that he's going to eclipse. I mean, knock on wood, he should eclipse his highest game total since 2022, at least, if not all the way back to like 2019, if things go the right way. So yeah, it's he's pacing toward a 30 homer season, which would be great for Trout, even if the average hovers around 240, but the XBA is at 279. So like you're right, Steve, nothing has changed from the early days, and the takes you are all over that like Trout could be, a huge fantasy asset, especially where he was going in drafts. I don't have the ADP in front of me, but he was going pretty late, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like honestly, like I think like around like Langford, like a little bit later on. But he was firmly in outfield too.
Yeah, I'll look it up. I'll look it up quick. Trout was way late. Yeah, 107.
Yeah.
So he's pacing to
What was
return
Langford,
value
if
there.
you don't mind?
I think he was
looking up?
earlier. I think he was in like the 50s.
50s? Okay, yeah.
Langford was, oh man, he ended at 41. So yeah,
Wow.
talk about helium.
Wow.
But yeah, Trout has more homers right now than Langford, and their average is pretty close. Obviously, not the steals, but
Speed, yeah.
yep. Last one I wanted to hit on is Jasson Dominguez, who is obviously a top prospect, just 22 years old, came in with a ton of hype. We hadn't seen much of him in the majors, and there's a reason, in my opinion, to be pretty excited that month over month he's just getting better and better. So that's back of the baseball card, but also what interested me is like his whiff rates are getting better month over month. So a guy that's this early in their career, like you want to see, to your earlier point, when pitchers are making adjustments, are you making adjustments back to that and improving? And that's where, like his batting average has just been a steady incline up from like the 238 in April to July so far, where he's hitting 326, even a 280 in the month of June. And yeah, the pop we know is there, as well as the speed, if he can stay on the field and be healthy. So yeah, the strikeout rate is high, and that's what you want to improve, and where you hope that the batting average can be anywhere close to the 266 that it's been at, because the other power speed stuff is enticing. But that's where I think that the whiff rate improvements are kind of fixing a really kind of a hole in his profile as a real player and as a fantasy player. So yeah, Dominguez is one that wanted to kind of highlight, because it's just getting better and better. July far and away was his best hard hit rate of the season. And he's one of those that, like, when you look at how he's produced month over month, there's been some months that have been better contact, but the power's been down. Other ones where he's got a lot of pop, but the average is super low. So it's a hope. But if we're saying like throw darts at breakout picks, he kind of puts it together in a way like Lawrence Butler did. And I wouldn't be shocked. And it starts with like plate discipline, and then just kind of fine tuning your approach to get the best out of your skill set. So yeah, I think Dominguez is an interesting one to watch. I don't have any shares. I wish I did, but this one is kind of almost like a throwback Yankee, with like how he lights up the stat sheet when all is going well, with a little bit of strikeout risk. But thoughts on Dominguez, Steve? A name we haven't talked about a ton on the show.
He is just 22 years old. Like he's been up for parts of 3 seasons. And I don't want to say it's been disappointing, but I guess maybe because it's been in New York and he had such a high prospect pedigree and had a up and down year last year. I think he was sent up and down and was hurt and kind of disappointed in his he was just played in 18 games last year. There's been some improvements, right? The ground ball rates improved, the whiff rates improved, like you said. He's got 14 steals, which is really nice. Sure, it's only 8 homers, but there's signs that there could be more, right? Like the hard hit percentage is elite, the bat speed is really good. He's taking a walk, which tells me like he's not like lost up there with the 11% walk rate. There may not be, he may not hit 260 the rest of the way. But considering he's a switch hitter, just 22 years old, and does hit righties better than he does lefties, that should keep him in the lineup. And the Yankees need him, right? Like they need everything they can get. Their lineup looks thin at times, even with Aaron Judge, right? And it was maybe looking a little bit better by being held up by Trent Grisham's unbelievably hot April. Cody Bellinger has been on fire at certain points. Like that could very well be Dominguez as he matures and comes through enters into his second half of the season really for the first time, right? Since he's never had really this long of extended run of play. But hey, a 760 OPS from a guy that's 22 years old, playing in New York,
runs a ton.
With 14 steals is nothing to laugh at, and I think that there can be improvement just considering how hard he hits the ball and the fact that he's improved his ground ball rate. Now it's just a matter of pulling those fly balls and getting the most out of that data, or out of that batted ball quality that he can. And that comes with age. That comes with seeing the league a few times, seeing pitchers more than once. And I think that it's just a matter of time with it's similar to, maybe not to the potential that Langford has, but I could see him maybe having a half just like Langford did, right? A 240, 10, 15, something like that, which would end up really, really good.
You'd love
especially considering that lineup, right? He'll score a ton of runs and have a bunch of RBI opportunities.
Yeah, you'd love to see the pop take a step forward because he's like a 60 raw power and he's jacked and everything, but like he's never really done it in the minors. And I think you're right that it's like a launch angle thing. So he's kind of in that camp of like Jordan Walker and some of the even like Yandy Diaz, right? Where it's like they hit the ball super hard, but there's ground ball rate issues. But even so, like I guess that's the gamble and that's the bet is can he get the pop? If so, keep running, and we might see Dominguez kind of solidify as like fringy outfield 2-3 if he can put it all together at just 22 years old. So yeah, that's Dominguez. I know we got to get to back to Steve, your third, another Yankee as our tease, but we're going to take our first ad break. We'll be right back after this. All right, so Steve, you're up. This is a name we've talked about, but love to hear the case for your third breakout hitter.
Yeah, I think this was your pick for this show last year, potentially.
A year
my
too
pick
soon.
is Ben Rice. Talk about quality of contact. Like, am I looking at Aaron Judge's Baseball Savant page or Ben Rice's?
For real.
It is crazy how well Ben Rice has hit the ball. There was a lot of helium around him in spring training because that data looked good when we did have it. The StatCast data on Ben Rice as far as like hard hit percentage and barrel percentage in spring training, and it's carried over into the season, right? 94th percentile exit velocity, 92nd percentile barrel rate, 95th percentile hard hit, 81st percentile bat speed, all with really, really good whiff rates for someone that hits the ball that hard, right? Like, he improved a lot in that aspect. He's only striking out 20% of the time, which is 51st percentile. The whiff rate is 57th percentile. He's not chasing. He's even taking a walk at a better than league average clip. That being said, he's only slashing 235, 326, 466, which is good. It's a 792 OPS, and he's got 14 homers. But he's been probably like the most unlucky hitter in the league, considering his 294 XBA is 60 points lower than his actual average. And sure, there's a lot that goes into that potentially would make him to be somewhat of a consistent underperformer in that aspect. But even still, like I think that he could hit 250 easily with how hard he hits the ball, and the fact that he's not like a clunker out there. He's 55th percentile in sprint speed, and even the 14 homers seem a little bit unlucky considering he's got a 25% pull air percentage. So he's barreling the ball all the time. He has short porch in Yankee Stadium.
Right.
There's there's a lot here that should be going right for Ben Rice, and I think that it's only a matter of time for some of that luck to even out and him become uh I don't know, maybe maybe like a
Why not
more
a
than
stud?
some.
You know,
Yeah, yeah,
like
like,
when you
could
look
he
at the
have like
data,
a Nick Kurtz type of run here? Like, yeah, I know he doesn't hit lefties that well, and he doesn't even play versus lefties that much. It's only been 63 at bats, but we've seen plenty of guys um, excel with that, like Michael Bush, Kerry Carpenter,
for sure.
um, Ben Rice is seem like the data tells me that he can be a player like Kerry Carpenter and and
Yeah.
Michael Bush that are extremely viable in even like 12-team leagues, even if they do sit versus lefties, even if it is a weekly lineup. Like, that's how good his bat could be, and he does have 4 homers versus lefties too. That's not nothing.
Hmm.
So I think Ben Rice has made massive improvements and just hasn't necessarily been rewarded with the surface numbers like he should have been so far.
Yep, that's a great one. And that rounds out our hitters. So we'll kind of segue over to pitchers. I'll lead us off, Steve, with Zebby Matthews, who, that's another one that we've been kind of waiting for a while for not only him to get like an extended run and sample size, but also for it to click where the talent lines up with kind of the fantasy impact. I know that the Twins have a slot for Zebby, who's coming off the IL probably right after All-Star break. He threw this past Sunday, and I think he touched even like, was it 100 or like 98 in that outing. So I think he's ready. And yeah, so when he comes back, there's a little bit of a log jam when Pablo Lopez comes back, which is not new for the Twins, where it's like, oh, is it, Woods Richardson? But I think that Zebby will get this run at least for, I would guess, 2, 3, 4 starts. And I think he's going to take it and run with it. So the 4 starts before his shoulder injury, the swing and miss stuff looked great with the 25 strikeouts and 19 innings. He had a 5.21 ERA, but underneath that was a 3.65 ERA. And yeah, he's just 17% rostered. The Twins have 6 matchups or series left the rest of the season against the Guardians, the White Sox, and the Royals. So I know that's kind of an early teaser for an
Yeah.
episode we always do. We'll probably do it next
Mhm.
week on like that strength of schedule. But
Mhm.
if Zebby Matthews, if you're kind of pushing for playoffs and he's got an outing against any of those lineups, I think we're going to see some great results and a possible breakout that will put him very much in that draft room discussion for next year. So yeah, I like the stuff. I mean, the slider is a great whiff pitch. Obviously, the fastball has a ton of velo. It has some good IVB as well. So he's a guy, and we've talked over the years that the Twins kind of have an
Mhm.
underrated development going on with pitchers. So yeah, Zebby is my first one. Again, sadly, no shares. He kind of got scooped up in my league, and it was like, oh man, that's a good stash. But if he's available in your league, I would change that. Open to your thoughts on Zebby Matthews, Steve.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned about playing time either because the Twins are 4 back of the wild card. They're 11 back of the division. Fangraphs has them at just a 23% chance to make the playoffs.
Mm.
They're going to sell. And I think with selling, they're going to want to see what they have in Zebby Matthews and David Festa, who I think could also be on this list, and pitch them for the rest of the month to maybe potentially showcase them for a trade. And if they don't trade them, like give them runway the rest of the year to like, okay, are these going to be potentially like our 1-2 or 2-3 into next year? There's Joe Ryan trade rumors to the Red Sox. So as long as Zebby and Fester are healthy, I know that's been a bit rare for both of them currently. I'm interested.
That's a great
Like
point.
everything
Yeah.
that I look at for Zebby, I know it's just 19 innings, the major league level, tells me that I'm in a 30% strikeout rate, and 9.6% walk rate, a 12% swing strike rate to sort of back that up. And the 5.21 ERA is unsightly, but all the indicators are in the mid to high threes, which is what I would expect for Zebby Matthews the rest of the way. He added like almost 2 ticks of fastball velocity, which is super impressive for a guy that had pretty good stuff coming up already. So, there's a lot to like with Matthews, that he has that slider that everyone was super impressed with and looking forward to seeing last year when he was coming up as a prospect. So I like the call and could definitely see Matthews having a strong second half here.
And I forgot I got him in the TGFBI, Steve, so that could push me up. I'm just trying to climb out of purgatory in 6th. I know that we've been living there, but yeah, we'll have to check in on those. But hit me with your first pitcher breakout.
Yeah, this one is like I was hinting at before. It's fully gut feel as far as my analysis for making this pick.
Yeah,
I'm going with Sandy Alcantara. There's really nothing in the numbers, at least the surface numbers, that leave you encouraged, right? The last few starts,
trade rumors.
Yeah. There was a good run, I guess, in the end of May, early June, right, where he had a good start versus Colorado, a good start versus Pittsburgh, even was decent versus the Phillies, and then Atlanta, and then it's been bad since. 7 earned runs at Arizona, 5 earned runs in 6 innings versus Milwaukee, 6 earned runs in 5 innings at Cincinnati. Basically as bad as it was back to, May, April, 8 ERA Sandy Alcantara, right after he sort of like battled to get his ERA like below 7, which is nuts. That being said, I think there is some things under the hood as far as, pitching models that are encouraging. The stuff has been there basically all year, right? Like we saw this in spring training. He had the elite velocity, the movement looked good. It was like, okay, all systems go. Sandy looks like he's back. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Looks like he should be okay. That clearly wasn't the case. And I think that's manifested in his location. Fangraphs has a game log where you can look at stuff plus and location by games. And basically in April, all of his location scores were just horrible. 82, there was a 124 in his second start versus the Mets. I think he was actually pretty good in that start. Then a 79, 91, 91, 61, a 111, then back down to 90, then around 100, 87. These last 6 of the last 7 starts, though, he's had a location plus above 104. So that tells me he's getting his command back and starting to hit his spots, which is what made Sandy Alcantara, right? Like he was this command artist at 99.
Right.
And that's how he, that's what made him successful. And if he doesn't have, whereas like it's different for a guy like Spencer Strider, that's like, here's my stuff, hit it. Once he gets his stuff back, he can go, here's my stuff, hit it. And that's kind of manifesting and happening. For Alcantara, like being that his bread and butter is command, if he's not hitting his spots, there's going to be a lot of struggles. And I don't necessarily have the answer for why he had good location scores and bad outings. Coincidentally enough, those were 3 of his 4 worst outings by stuff plus the last 3 outings that he got rocked. So maybe he's like took some, eased it up and tried to sacrifice some of that for his command. But it seems like he just needs to find that balance. And I think that Sandy Alcantara, just because he's Sandy Alcantara, is someone that can do it and turn around. Who knows if he gets traded soon? I don't know. Maybe the Marlins don't want to trade him now because the value is so low, but maybe a new organization picks him up and something clicks. Yeah.
I've seen some Cubs rumors, and I feel like they're not strangers to like a reclamation project. But yeah, it is a bizarre case all around because the fastball has the best IVB like ever, and yet it's getting pummeled. And you just look at that and you're like, I mean, you're right, Steve. It's probably all down to location, and you kind of just have to hold your nose and say, well, it looks like the location stuff numbers are improving, so maybe there's a path forward. But it seems like, he's still 53% rostered in Yahoo, and he's got a 7 ERA. So there are some believers still holding on, and for good reason, because it's a huge upside if it, clicks into place, either just from his pitching or a new team that kind of works through a tweak with him. So yeah, I think it's a good one, and it's a
long
flyer.
shot.
Yeah,
it's a long shot, but he probably is the best chance of being a top 20 pitcher that's sitting on your wire, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My next one is less fantasy actionable, because good luck getting EURY PEREZ with what he just did in July. June was very rough, and that was the time to really buy the dip. And we talked about that. He was actually available in some leagues, so really should have pounced. He has been locked in, with just giving up 1 run over his last 3 starts, had given up 11 runs in the 4 starts before that. But I just wanted to shout out, because he's a fun guy to talk about, and we haven't talked about him a ton in the show's history. And well, maybe that's not true. I feel like we were interested, very interested early on, and then the TJ and everything. But I just think we could see the SP1 breakout this year, like these past 3 starts. His sweeper and changeup, which I know aren't his primaries, but the sweeper is kind of a newly developed pitch. He was throwing it like 1% of the time, like a show me pitch. Now it's up to 11%. In these last 3 starts, had a whiff rate over 60%. The changeup, which is I think his 4th pitch, a whiff rate over 60% in that month of July so far. Like, those numbers are prime DeGrom, and I know they're not going to hold, but I just am excited to see what happens in the second half for EURY PEREZ, because he's kind of got that juice to where I think next year in draft rooms, as long as like innings limits and workload isn't the concern, from just what he does on the mound standpoint, to me, he feels like he could be like a top 10 SP. So let's see if he sustains it, but I'm just pumped to watch the EURY PEREZ breakout in the second half. Not sure if you got anything on that one, Steve, or if we want to keep the train rolling here.
I did stash him all year in my home league, so that's
well played.
Music to my ears. And they did kind of slow play his rehab, which is a pretty good thing, right? Because now most of these innings are going to come at the major league level in the second half. He only had 22 minor league innings. So he's at 54 for the year. He had 91 back in 2023. At the majors, he had 36 in the minors that year. So he got up to 120 in 2023. I think they'll probably want to keep him around 120, right?
Which is probably where he would top out. You know what I mean?
That like, I don't think you. Maybe they'll start him the 5th game of the after the all. I wouldn't be surprised if he did get a turn in rotation until like mid next week, which is a way that these guys, which way the teams sort of can manipulate innings. But I think it'll be all systems go. Like, they're not going to be skipping starts even late into September with him, just because he's only at the 55 innings and probably get another 70 or so at least, which you could reasonably see in 10 more starts down the stretch, right? That's
another 60, get to like 115 on the year, and then he's set up
and
like
they can go to 130 even. I could see that, and then want to have the training wheels fully off for next year. So I wouldn't be too concerned until like the last week or so of the season, which a lot of leagues shut down by then head to head anyway. So it's very, very exciting for EURY PEREZ.
Yep. And that's PEREZ, just 22 years old. So yeah, we're on the roller coaster here. It's going to be a fun ride for the 6'8", 22-year-old phenom. So we got 2 more pitches for Steve, 1 more for me, but we're going to take our second ad break, and we'll be right back after this. Okay, so Steve, hit me with SP2 for you here.
Yeah, this is someone that I think we talked about either last week or the week before, and I think I put him on a rundown, so maybe this is becoming a theme, and it's been a guy of mine. That's Mike Soroka. There's a lot to like. He checks a lot of my boxes: high walk rate, a high strikeout rate, low walk rate. Um, Even has a good ground ball rate, and there's just a lot that looks like there's unlucky going on with the 285 BABIP, a 64.9% left on base percentage. It's just way, way too high for a guy with this good of stuff. A 10% swing strike rate, and a 116 whip, right? That does not match up with a 5.35 ERA. When you do like a sort of like the largest differences from unqualified pitchers between ERA and Sierra, his ERA is a 5.35, his Sierra is a 3.45. So one of the biggest differences as far as underperforming, as far as ERA indicators, with Mike Soroka. Yeah, there's just basically, a wide arsenal here that I think is performing well under the hood, but hasn't gotten the results. I'm glad that the Nationals are still starting him. It's giving him a chance to, um, you know, uh, work his way out of that funk. And I know there's been some really good starts, right? There's been a few games with, double digit strikeouts versus the Dodgers on the 22nd, right? Like that looked like
Mhm.
a breakout, because then he had the Rockies and struck out 9 guys again. But then there's been basically, a bunch of disappointing games after that, right? Including 7 runs versus the Red Sox, and then just an okay start versus the Cardinals heading into the break, where he pitched 4 innings, gave up 2 runs, had 4 strikeouts. So nothing great, but um,
I like it.
there's a pitcher here that is seemingly figuring it out, and I think kind of pairing that amazing run in the bullpen with becoming a starter again. And the game log game that you like to do, there's some really nice high strikeout games of 8 strikeouts in 5 2/3, 8 strikeouts in 5 innings, a 7-inning shutout versus the Rangers, where he struck out 10, walk 1. So there's a good pitcher here. I think I'd be curious if a team
Mhm.
picks him up at the deadline, and like if it's a pitching inclined team, like, oh my god, like imagine the Astros get
Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
Soroka and tweak his arsenal a bit, and have him focus on throwing a few of his better pitches more.
The Cubs
Yeah.
there's a lot of, news circulation, like 3 days ago,
Okay.
trade rumors on Mike Soroka for the Cubs. So yeah, like the Nationals are
And the Cubs
0
have done kind of well with some of those like middling stuff guys. Like imagine a
Yeah,
guy
like,
that's a little bit of a better, like Javier Asad's
Stroman.
going on these runs,
Yeah,
and
Marcus Stroman back in the day.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like it may not be the greatest place to pitch, but hey, on days when the wind's blowing in, and an organization that at least seems competent, it would
Yeah,
be
and
it
good
would
for
be nice.
wins, really
Yeah,
good for
yeah, for
wins.
sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
so,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, like it for Soroka. Last one I'm rounding out with, we got some Yankees on tonight's show, but Cam Schlittler, uh, is one that just has kind of popped up onto the scene. I know he was in AA, had a pretty brief stint in AAA before he got the call. And in his debut against the Mariners, 5 1/3 with 7 strikeouts, he gave up a couple homers, but some interesting stuff where he wasn't really on my radar. And I know Luis Heel is returning, so there's a little bit of a question on opportunity. But in that outing against the Mariners, he sat 98 miles per hour, and he has a slider that he pairs with it. Lance Brosdowski did a nice little write up on him, and talked about how his slider is actually his money pitch, which is interesting because Fangraphs has that graded a little bit lower than the fastball. But Lance mentions in the article that like this is kind of the how did we not see this coming prospect, just because he's a 6'6" guy that throws gas And in the 76 innings in the minors this year, he had a 32% strikeout rate, reasonable 8% walk rate, but the whip is a little bit high. Overall, just for a guy that's 21% rostered, the Yankees do a pretty good job with pitching development. And if Schlittler can kind of sustain this, you never know what's going to happen with, injuries and opportunity, or what Luis Gil looks like when he comes back. So this one is, again, kind of a deeper dart, but at 21% rostered, it could be a free investment to see where it goes. And more than anything, I think just an interesting name to keep on the radar with kind of his mix of breaking stuff and the high heat for a 24-year-old. So that's Cam Schlittler. Curious if you got any thoughts there, Steve.
He looks really good, really, really good. I'm surprised. I don't know. He's like I've been all over Will Warren. I'm surprised I didn't have more of Cam Schlittler. But he like the breaking stuff looks so good. The fastball has really good velocity. I know there's Nick Pogg was talking about it on the craft, I think, with Paul Sporer. Like the fastball doesn't have the greatest, underlying numbers as far as like extension,
shape and stuff,
and ride, but that's okay when you throw that hard and have that good at breaking pitches. You could sort of make up for it there. So yeah, I'm in. I think it looks really good, and it's just like a matter of him staying in rotation. But those things tend to work itself out. When one pitcher comes back, another one tends to go down. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that.
Nice.
I'm in on Schlittler. I think he looks really, really good. I liked him a lot last year too, like when he broke out in the minors. So I'm kind of disappointed that I wasn't stashing him in a few more places. But, glad it's happening.
I like it. Okay, we'll round us up with the last one on the list here, Steve.
I don't know if I've talked about him on the show. Remind me if I did.
He's
maybe
been on the rundown once because I added him after one of our shows, but it's been an up and down type of season for this guy.
Yeah, I've been sort of hoping and like on all my daily leagues and even in NFBC, I've been stashing him and adding him, and he's getting a start this week, and that's Ben Kasparius. So this one may be the biggest long shot because he doesn't have a rotation spot. The Dodgers are getting healthy, they're getting Blake Snell back, and Ben Kasparius has been good, really, really good in a relief role. So maybe this is not going to happen as a starter, but I really, really think that even long term and maybe as soon as the second half, Ben Kasparius has the stuff to become a really, really good starter and a useful one for fantasy. There's 4 really good pitches in a fastball, a cutter, a sweeper, and the fastball, cutter, curveball, and sweeper. He throws everything hard. The fastball is at 96 miles an hour. It has 18 inches IVB. And like he's looked amazing in stretches out of the bullpen, and like he's gone behind openers, gone 3 innings, 4 innings. Like it's gotten to the point where it's like, okay, he's gonna take a next turn in rotation. It looks like he would have potential to run with that job. And like every time that's happened, like it seemed like he's got pummeled. And there's a great thread on Twitter by @NateRoper_. He did a breakout pick on a breakdown on Kasparius and Taj Bradley, who I think is also didn't make this rundown, but a good pick. And he talks about how his fastball is good, it has good numbers, but it gets pummeled. It's got low extension and a bad VAA, and has a cutting action that leads into the barrel of righties. But a lot of that is due to bad luck. It's a 292 WOBA and a 682 OPS against righties, but he's got a 550 ERA versus them. His strikeout rate is good. His walk rate is good versus righties. So like a lot of it is just, hey, he's gotten bad luck. Like these barrels have come in opportune times. Like, he's given up more runs than basically expected. And then his conclusion is basically that he could potentially add a sinker that would greatly benefit his his arsenal offset some of those fastball deficiencies and make that fastball play up. And who knows, maybe the All-Star break is something to do that. And if you see him come back and ever throw a sinker, that could potentially lead to a breakout. Like another guy, Thomas Nesco, friend of the program, basically anytime Kasperius threw, like there's a player card just showing how good of his underlying numbers are, and part of the reason why I've been so hyped on it and believe in him so much. But yeah, this is definitely the biggest long shot, and considering that he may not get a rotation spot, but still someone that I'm enamored with. I'm going to be in on next year and just basically perpetually be on my watch list as someone that could break out as a starter. I really think that Ben Kasperius has all the tools to do so. He's just a tweak or so away. And he's even so good. Like, if he does stay in that bullpen role and pitch to 2 to 3 innings, like he could be valuable in getting wins behind guys. Like maybe he piggybacks Ohtani for a little bit. Or
it's like the Michael King before. Before he got the jump to being a starter, right? Yeah. And I think Kasperius, for one, he's just 26 years old. So it's not like he's kind of, a wily veteran in the bullpen. The other thing is he's a great PLV player page guy, like a pitcherless player page guy. He's 16th in the majors on PLV ERA with a 2.22 is kind of his like pitch by pitch ERA indicator. And everything you're pointing out, Steve, like he's definitely gotten unlucky. 34 percentile left on base rate, 38th percentile BABIP, and then a 95th percentile PLV, 80th percentile swinging strike rate. So yeah, I mean, I tried this season to kind of jump on this when he got the call. It was after he had that big like 6 strikeouts in 3 innings, and like you said, when he's had the opportunity, it's almost been like the AJ Puck thing where it's like, oh man, just do what you're doing in the bullpen when you get the starter gig. But even if he doesn't, I think there's still enough talent here to where he can help rosters. So yeah, I like the pick, and I think it's a good one to watch in the offseason as like a potential. I know we're chasing the next Michael King always. So yeah, the IVB stuff is really good as well on the fastball. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff to just like look at and admire. And like you said, it just seems like there's a tweak for it to all click. So yeah, really good one here.
I'll be believing in it all year, basically, until it can't happen anymore. I mean, another guy like 59 strikeouts in 62 innings, a 118 whip, like that doesn't add up to a 4.45 ERA. I think Kasperius could be a good long-term play. And hey, who knows? The Dodgers have plenty of pitchers that get injured all the time, and maybe they'll have their hand forced and give them a full shot in the rotation for a little bit.
Totally. Well, we did it, Steve. Got through 12 names in decent time here, so it's good to be back. It's good to be having fantasy baseball back this weekend. So very excited for it, and we'll be weekly the rest of the way in for everybody who joined. Thank you. Appreciate you guys sticking with us throughout the summer months here. And next week's episode, maybe we'll look at those strength of schedule matchups, because that's always kind of a trademark one to get a leg up on the leagues that you're in. So with that said, episode 186 signing off. Thanks for talking baseball with us.
Thanks for listening, guys. Later.